You're listening to the Full 10 Yards of Britball podcast with your host, Timothy Lambert-Monk. Yes, welcome in one and all. This is the Full 10 Yards at Britball podcast. Before we get into today's show, I just want to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you to everyone that is watching, everyone that's listening, or just generally supporting us. You don't have to do that, but taking time out of your day, whether you're on a walk, whether you're at work. Really appreciate any clicks and anything that you do. So if this is your first time here, welcome aboard. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you are watching on there, if you want to subscribe to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. That would help us a great deal. But as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, we have the Sandwell Steelers on today as we continue our UK tour. We welcome in, I will say, the self-anointed Mr Sandwell Steelers. You recognise him from our quiz a couple of months ago, Stuart Andrew, and also we bring along head coach Paul Kent as well. Fellas, good evening to you, Stuart. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Tim. Thank you very much. Yourself?
Yeah, we're good. And Paul, a very full 10 yards warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely. Pleasure is all ours. And obviously, point of this podcast, let's get it out there straight off the bat. Proud to announce that 14 Yards have dedicated a bit of funds to becoming partners or sponsoring the Sandwell Steelers for the next 12 months as part of a partnership. So just another way that the 14 Yards are investing back into Britball. But Stuart, coming to you first, obviously being involved with the operations and kind of behind the scenes stuff. What's it been like for Sandwell's in terms of sponsorships, finances? Because there's going to be teams out there who have struggled. If you haven't got a product on the field, generally people aren't going to be investing because they seemingly don't get any obviously return on that investment. But what's it been like for yourself and Sandwell Steelers as a team over the last 12, 18 months?
I think the biggest thing is just staying active and sort of staying out there so that sponsors know that there's still a product there to come to and stay with and come back to. So just before the 2020 season, just after our promotion, we were already in the talks about getting a new kit. So the now ex-chairman, Rob Moore, did a heck of a lot of work alongside Alpha, the kit production company, to design and to get this kit sorted. And we were just trying to look at getting funding off the ground for that. And one of our previous ball sponsors was pretty keen to help us out. Black Country Seals Limited, BCSL, they now have a prominent feature on our kit on the back underneath our numbers, and they're the kit sponsor for the next 3 to 5 years, depending on the lifespan of the kit. And they're still on there. They're still really active within the club. It's actually a dad of one of our ex-players who still wanted to be involved with the club after his son had finished playing. So we got a great partnership with him and his company. And then obviously yourselves coming on board and sort of reaching out to ourselves and other clubs around the country, I know. And it's a real big cliche, but every little helps in a game that's very, very amateur. We rely heavily on our athletes to pay their way. So anything and anything will help a club out.
Hopefully, and so hopefully for your shirt sponsor's sake, the detergent and the conditioner gets those mud stains out, and your kit is in pristine condition. Paul, obviously talking of lack of product on the field, obviously you've recently joined the Steelers, obviously coming over from Herod, like as you told me before we clicked the record button. But obviously that brings its own challenges for you. I assume there's only so much you can do over a Zoom call or Skype or whichever kind of product you kind of use. But any particular challenges for you? Joining Sandwell and then obviously trying to get that connection with the players, because again without having that face-to-face chemistry and just that conversation, it makes it just that little bit harder.
I think you kind of nailed it pretty much on the head there with the kind of not getting the face-to-face, because whilst joining in November, at the time it's like, yes, it's great, we still didn't quite know what season we were going to have, if we were going to have a season, was going to be a Premier League season, not having met any of the players, not knowing who was going to return, and having obviously had the previous coaching staff had their ways and systems, and excuse me, I kind of have mine. So it's a case of building a brand new system. So from a first point of view, it's been absolutely great. That's one thing I love doing. So a brand new offensive system. It's taken those kind of 5-6 months, still kind of ironing out bits and pieces now, really, as we go into, now you've met the players and see the players we've got. And again, and not knowing the kind of the level of the players, whether it be, they're returning players or we're going to have some new players as well. So I think it was difficult, again, staying active initially, because obviously we've been sort of 18 months or so with no football. So I think kind of during the initial lockdowns, that okay, it might only be a couple of months, so you stay active and you do things. Okay, I was with a different team. I'm sure other teams were all doing the same. As okay, we'll keep busy, and then we'll be back in a couple of months. And then I think when it became clear there's going to be no football for a long time, a lot of people switched off from a lot of things, not just football, and it wasn't a priority. So including myself, probably a couple of months is all we know. There's things to do, and there's not actually much else I can do at the moment. So actually having the new challenge at Sandwell was really kind of inspiring and got me really back into it and fully on board again. So yeah.
Nice. And Stuart, you mentioned just prior there that you heavily relied on players to pay their way. Again, case by case status. If you go up and down the country, it's going to be totally different. Did you find players left because again, they essentially weren't hitting the field? Obviously, went to then go and do other things. How was that? How is it? What's the battle been like with, again, trying to keep costs down? And is there anything that you particularly implement at Sandwell to help people that come in on rookie taster days, or how when you get new rookies in to try and keep them? Again, the Midlands and where you guys are based, there can be quite a lot of teams in the local area. So it's kind of a battle, isn't it? You can't pay for it all, because it's the costs of American football is humongous. But then again, you need to trying to attract players to raise levels on the team, get numbers up, and essentially be sustainable.
So a little bit of credit where credit's due. I think it's helped with sort of the realignment of a lot of the divisions this season. So also to come in line with the COVID restrictions and not traveling so far. To only have an 8-game season means that we were able to reduce our fees for the players, and to have sort of like a short and sharp season, as it were, has also allowed us to drop it down. So before the 2020 season, we were obviously expected to go up to Edinburgh, which is a heck of a hike. We would have started training in February all the way through to the end of August, September. Whereas this year our furthest away journey is Crewe or Staffordshire. Which is just a short trip up the M6, and we were able to knock nearly a third off of our subs for the players. Nice. Because we can carpool up the M6 and we don't have to pay a company £500 for a bus journey. Which we are still in talks with the same bus company just to say, look, we might not need you this year. But we guarantee we'll come back to you next year when we've got trips to Edinburgh, to Manchester, when we get the Prem North back, so that said company don't say, well, actually they're just sort of shirking us off here. They don't want us anymore. We've worked with them for the last 3 or 4 years, and we want to work with them again next year. So it's touching base with them, making sure that their operations are still good and they're still able to function and work, and they are, and then next year they know that we're going to quite happily return to them. So as we say, it's just keeping the costs down for our players, and as I said, we've knocked about a third off our subs this year, and just making sure that players pay their dues as they go along in the season, and we can offer the quality product that we normally do year on year, even at a reduced rate for a shortened season.
And I say, so if anyone that hasn't done the trip from from the Midlands up into Edinburgh, I've done the M6, the M6. I can't remember. I used to live in Scotland, so I've done Edinburgh to down your way for quite a few times. But it's nice. Right. It's a nice journey. Don't knock it. It's nice when you go.
we went up to Newcastle, not last year, the year before, in the quarterfinals. And yeah, that journey was quite nice. We stayed over in Newcastle, but obviously Edinburgh is another hour at least, maybe two on from Newcastle. So as I replied to Edinburgh Wolves on my socials the other day, there'd be a bit of character building on the bus on the way home. Put it that way.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the jam. Was it M6? I want to say M40 is not right, but hang on. Let me just see.
M8, is it? It's M8 up to Edinburgh, isn't it? Is it M8?
It's the M8, isn't it? Yeah. But I think the M6 when you go over changes into. Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to zoom out at some point and have a look. Where were we? Yeah. I used to love living in Scotland, and the car journey is very nice scenery. So don't knock it. Let's move it on then, Paul. To obviously, coming up the kind of this season. But what's it been like with? I assume obviously you've returned to the fields recently, and obviously getting that face to face. What kind of what's it been like? Obviously meeting the players first and foremost. Putting your system in. Have you had any kind of challenges in terms of maybe player apprehension or anxiousness about COVID and people that may be personally affected by COVID, and putting things in place to make sure you're compliant with restrictions and guidelines?
It has been different. Firstly, it's just great to meet everybody fine after having had countless Zoom meetings. I think got to the point at one point my other half said, do I need to make an appointment with you on Zoom so I can get to speak to you for a bit, because I haven't got meetings with everyone often as possible. But it was good to kind of get a sense from people that way, but just getting on the field was great, and the enthusiasm to get back on the field is brilliant, and fair play to the players that have, because I'm the offensive coordinator as well, so I've focused mainly on that. The players are really bought into it and really passionate about it, so it's been really good. That have been, obviously, for the first kind of few weeks we weren't allowed to mix. We were in groups of 6 and we couldn't do any kind of contact, or very limited, so it's a case of doing different plans. All the coaches had to do like COVID qualifications, for want of a better word, to make sure that they were aware of what we are and aren't allowed to do. Again, that was challenging again as well. And just getting people used to, sanitizing its equipment, washing hands, and getting and an extra risk assessment for the operations manager to get kind of all the venues, because it was great to say we've got great, we can go back to training next week. But where are we going to train? Everyone's trying to book it up. Everyone's got different kind of access points, entry points. So it's kind of challenging from that point of view, let alone just getting on the field. So now we're at the stage, we've been back, I think, about 4 or 5 weeks. Where we can go back to full contact again. There's kind of no limitations on the time as such, so it has been good. And you sort of mentioned about rookie sessions earlier as well. Normally just about every team, I know we would have planned to as well, was have kind of 2 or 3 rookie sessions at the start of the year, purely have a few of the veterans along. But all of a sudden, yes, we can go back to football. No time to organise that, because everybody needs to get back, because it's kind of 8 or 10 weeks to the season. So we haven't had official rookie days, but actually we've had a lot of new guys coming along, because we had a recruitment group on Facebook for a while, and that was building, trying to keep people interested until such times we got back. And to be honest, without them, we'd be a lot lighter this year. So we've got a good crop of rookies that are really kind of embracing it and learning on the go. So we've kind of had rookie sessions by having a lot of new guys there. So
nice.
So it's been challenging. I think we only had a couple of players really from a COVID point of view that said, I'm not really sure, whether it's worth kind of the risk. They may have had, family members or anyone that was kind of more at risk. Totally understandable. It's just not worth it. And hopefully we'll see them back again next year.
No, absolutely. And Stuart, just a point on kind of the build up to this season. Your thoughts on again with the communications with the powers that be on getting to the point where we're saying, okay, we're going to have a regionalised season, and what was the communication like with your team, yourselves, and BAFA, just to kind of get this all off the ground and kind of organised.
Yeah, again, I come back to the saying that credit where credit's due. Warren Smart has been putting the jigsaw pieces together, and he's come out with a fairly good picture of the entire nation, I think, to allow everybody to compete at A level, put it that way. There's some pieces that needed to be twisted and fitted in a different way. But I think overall, everybody is happy that we're just getting some form of competitive football and some form of product out on a gridiron across the next sort of 3 or 4 months.
Sure.
Which is really good. I mean, he started with a call with what was going to be the Premiership North, and a lot of the organisers within those clubs were sort of erring on the side of caution in terms of the regional structure, which is sort of what Warren sort of took on board and sort of restructured most of the north of the M25, should we say. So we ended up in sort of that regional structure, which has worked reasonably well, I think, on the whole. And that also took into account the guidelines of trying to reduce travel and reduce being in the same sort of space as a lot of other people. So a lot of teams can carpool, as I've already said, rather than get on a coach and travel 3 hours on a coach. So I think the league, the clubs have all worked really well together and come out with a good structure that will work for everybody to make it as safe and as competitive as possible for the season.
And for those of you that are shouting at your screens, if you're watching or shouting whilst you're going for your walk, it's the A74. The A74 is a beautiful road. After the M6 turns into the A74 when you get into Scotland. But there we go. And just a quick point, Stuart, on what was it been like with regards to implementing the kind of the COVID regulations? Has it been quite simple, straightforward? Is it, quite a lot of people had to put a bit of work in to make sure that you are compliant? Was the kind of, has that been communicated with BAFTA as well? Was that kind of you need to, they kind of let you get on with that because it's there for everyone to kind of see?
It's kind of been 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
Okay.
So obviously, they'd have been speaking to people above them at the Department for Culture and Sport.
Sure.
And they'd have been getting the details from government level. They then handed that down and communicated that with club ops directors. And then it was pretty much left on us to make it team specific.
Right. Okay.
So obviously we all had our own venues that functioned in different ways. And we train at 2 different venues. So we train at RSA Academy in Tipton on Wednesday night. And then we train at Portway Lifestyle Centre on a Sunday morning. Both of those have different access points, different layouts, and their own different risk assessments.
Sure.
So we had to make them club specific, upload them onto the BAFA website so that they could review them and tick them off and say, yes, you're ready for return to play or not. So we had to revise 1 or 2 things from our original one. We re-uploaded it. They gave it the green light and the go ahead, and we started training. And then it was just a case as myself as COVID officer and Paul as head coach and his coaching staff, just to make sure that the players were compliant and they knew what was going on, and just making sure that we were consistent in our message, we were consistent in our actions, and making sure that players understood that they needed to go about it a certain way to make sure that we were all safe and training in a secure manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I say there'll be a lot of people out there, maybe from the outside looking in, just think, click your fingers and it's all done. I can't even imagine, upper teams up and down the country, all the different things that have gone into even just be able to put a gum shield on, put a helmet on, and go and practice. Yeah. So again, well done to all the teams out there, the operations guys and all the guys behind the scenes, making sure that all things are safe and ready to go back to the field. But Paul, talking of getting back to the field, obviously, joining quite recently, and the first game that you'll have this year in the regionalised divisions obviously will be your first game. Are you happy in a sense that you kind of get a free run because it's a regionalised division and nothing? It will revert back to type next year. Are you happy in the fact that you kind of get a dry run at it a little bit? Or I know you're in a division with Tamworth, so you'll get to see what you're up against next year anyway. But does it take the pressure off you maybe a little bit because you get to, let's say, install your new offense, try a few things out with players who you're getting to know? How are you approaching the season?
Yeah, I think initially, if I sort of echo what Stuart was saying, fair play to Warren Smart. It's not a job I'd have wanted to do because you're on a hiding position. There's going to be someone that is unhappy, and there is. But I think in the main intent, just to get, because touching on it is all kind of grassroots sports. It would not have been in the government's priority to get American football played in Britain. So fair play to BAFA for kind of keeping on top of it and making sure there is football. So I think it's a double-edged sword as far as from the competitive side of this year, because I wanted to go in with a new system that was a little bit different to people had seen, so it would have maybe given us an advantage there. But actually, then with the amount of new players we've got, it's a really great opportunity for them to kind of get some football experience. And I challenge anyone that's played American football to say, there's a friendly game. Every game is kind of competitive, and you've got to go into it full contact. So you've got to kind of approach it properly every single game you play. Otherwise, it's a recipe for disaster. So it's a really good grounding point for a lot of those. And even the guys that haven't played for 18 months, good to get back into it. Good to kind of get the systems in place. We've now got a chance to do those systems both on offense and defense. They both changed. So we go, that worked, that didn't work, and perhaps we can change some bits and pieces here and hopefully keep that retention of the new guys, along with perhaps some returning guys as well. They're going to have to fight for their places because the guys that have been playing for a year, that are kind of really up for it, and they put everything into it this year. So I can't wait, and it'd be great just great to get back to football, and be nice to see Tamworth. I think they're probably, I'm guessing, maybe in a similar situation, whereas it's kind of for them, does it matter to them? So how many of their players kind of come back as well, or whether they've got new players, they try new things. So it'll just be good to kind of get a feel for things and get everybody used to kind of game day things that I like to do and kind of progress from here. It's a good starting point. So.
Yeah, no doubt we'll stop at Tamworth at some point and get Jason Scott back on. We do like a bit of Jason on the podcast, but Stuart, obviously being obviously not this year but next year, the fact that you'll be in the Prem the year after, does that make it easier for you to kind of sell yourselves as for advertisement and sponsorships? Obviously, you started off the show you're talking about how you've managed those over the past 18 months, but I suppose being in the Premier Division makes that tiny bit easier to sell yourselves a little bit.
I think so. I'd like to think so. Obviously, a lot of our sponsorship is based around who we are and what we offer as a club. So we obviously have the Steeler standard and making sure that everybody upholds themselves to those standards, including sort of sponsorship. So whether it's a little sort of £100 sponsorship or £1,000 or £3,500 for a shirt sponsor, we would sell ourselves, so to speak, in exactly the same manner, that we're a fully inclusive football team. We have a U16 program, we have a women's program, we have an adult program, and you can sponsor a player, you can sponsor a team, you can sponsor a game ball. So we break this down for any sponsor, whether it be a little business in Tipton or whether it be a national company that wants to get on board with the Sandwell Steelers. So the fact that the Premiership North has a little bit more of a pulling power, yes, I'd say it would. But how many people in this country know that American football is even played? How many people know there's a national team? How many people know there's a national league? So when we're trying to sort of sell ourselves, it's more so about us, about our brand, about our socials, about our website, and that sort of reach, rather than where we compete and what level we compete at.
Yeah, and so we'll get you to signpost where they can get all involved with that bit in a couple of minutes. But Paul, we'll finish off with you. Obviously, let's say new to kind of Sandwell, but what your obviously back in 2019 had a great season. What was it, 7-0, 24 points conceded in the season. They had that great comeback against the Pirates. Obviously, Steelers will be looking to kind of build upon that going into the regionalised divisions, but then obviously kick on in 2022. What's for you personally aspirations for you in Sandwell?
For this season, it's very different. This is a case of kind of getting everyone together and playing football and getting used to sort of the way things are done. But visions and goals for the future. The reason I joined was because I'd always seen from afar a team that's kind of has progressed in a not sort of meteorically, but at a good proper pace. It's kind of everything's kind of built upon. And so I had a chat with the then chairman, and our kind of goals was that because I'm ultra competitive and want to win absolutely everything I do. So I don't think there's point in playing a game if you don't want to win, regardless if I'm playing at Tiddlywinks in the pub, I want to win, kind of thing. So it's that kind of mentality of building over the years and having a 3-5 year plan to the ultimate goal has got to be the best team in the country. I know that will upset some people in other teams, but that's if you've got to have that and setting that standard and getting used to that sort of that culture of wanting to be the best. And this sport does take a little bit more than most other sports to play, not let alone kind of coach and organise. It does take a bit more commitment. You kind of look after yourselves off the field. So it's a case of trying to put all those programs and bits and pieces in place to keep building the club, and so it's sustainable. There's there's a move to have the semi-professional league. I think they were talking about in 2 or 3 years' time. It's an absolute goal. If they're going to pick teams, then we should be one of them, and we should be aiming to be at least one of those, and the top ones of those. So we've got to be kind of looking towards that, keep building, progressing, and be sustainable, be in the Premier League and stay in the Premier League and win the Britball event ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. And say one, if the fixture between yourselves and Sam have certainly one I've got circled on my proverbial calendar. So yeah, looking forward to that one. But Stuart, round us off then with regards to Sam. Anyone maybe watching or listening, maybe wants to find out a bit more about the Steelers. Again, like you say, one of the guys here at the Full 10 Yards didn't realise that he was a stone's throw away from you guys. So hopefully he'll get down and watch you, because I think he's not too far away from you where you guys play. But if someone wants to find a bit more about Sandwell, here's your chance to plug away your socials and your website and all the rest of it.
Yeah. So we're mostly active on socials. We just had as I said, we had a change at the top with chairman, and we've got a new DWP, and he's doing a lot of work updating our website that's not really been touched. Typical Britball for about the last 2 or 3 years. So the website is just sandwellsteelers.com. And you can link everything from there. Facebook, Sandwell Steelers. Drop us a message. 90% of the time you'll probably get me replying to it, but the social media guy Sam Raff will probably message you back if I don't. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, we're active over all 4 of the social medias regularly, just trying to attract the audiences in. And then if anybody gets in touch with us, the operations directors from all the 4 different clubs will then message you back within sort of the 24 hours and signpost you into different groups or different emails. The best one to get us at is just info@sandwellsteelers.com, and that'll go to everybody on the club committee, so that the likelihood of you getting a response is quite high. And as I said, 75-80% of the time you'll probably end up with a reply from me, just as generic, hi, nice to meet you, let's get you on board, see where we can signpost you to, and just get you started, whether that's a player, whether that's on the committee, whether that's help filming games, whether that's help as chain crew, even if you want to come on board as a club official, coach, whether you want to come on board as a club referee, we can then signpoint you in the direction of BAFRA to get you involved with refereeing the sport. So get in touch with us, and we can then signpost you in the right direction as to what club and what sort of umbrella arm that we need to point you in.
Yeah, absolutely. And say just to point, obviously, Full 10 Yards, hardcore guys who know what we do. If you are looking to become a coach or especially an official, where are the officials out there? Come on board. Make sure you head over to our website, full10yards.com, and head over to the Britball page where you can sign up and say, if you want to be an official, we'll try and help you subsidise those costs, because it's not the cheapest thing in the world. But Stuart, Paul, obviously, thank you for joining me. Thank you for telling us all about the Sandwell Steelers. Obviously, best of luck to you guys, obviously, for this season. And obviously your first crack at the Prem North next season as well. And don't forget, everyone that is listening, everyone that is watching, we'll be throughout this season, we'll be keeping you up to date with all the latest that's going on. We'll have results, fixtures, interviews as well weekly as we head up and down the country, talking with head coaches, players, and just generally seeing how the season is getting on. Again, thanks to Stuart and Paul for joining me. Glad we are able to come on board with you guys and be partnered with you. Fascinated to see how you get on this season and next as well. I've been Timothy Lambert Monk. I will see you next time when we do this all again for the game.